Okay, cooking for Nikki. Let's make some mac and cheese. I like to use Barilla elbows because they have a little bit of like ridge in them, which helps hold the sauce a little bit better. And we're gonna start by putting a big pot of water on, heating up another pot. And what you're gonna need is a pound of cheese. I like to mix sharp cheddar and mild cheddar, so a half pound of each. I've doubled this recipe, by the way, if your eye is telling you these aren't the right quantities. So you want to grate 3/4 of a pound of it and leave a quarter. So you can just take 3/4 of the blocks of cheese you buy and grate those and leave the other one for the time being. A cup of milk, 2 tablespoons of butter, and 1 tablespoon of flour. In an empty pot, we're gonna dump our butter in and wait for it to melt, and the water will start to boil off. It'll sort of fizz a little bit. You're gonna need a whisk. What we're gonna be doing is making a roux, R-O-U-X, which is just a fat, and then you cook some flour in it in a 2 parts fat. So 2 parts butter to 1 part flour ratio here. So we're gonna melt all this butter. It's gonna do all this foamy business. And once that's done, we'll tip in the flour. Roux is a pretty controversial topic for people that cook a lot. If you're into Cajun cooking or French cooking, there's like a zillion types of roux. But I think even people who feel passionately about roux, and I don't, would be fine with me saying that the things you want to avoid with a roux are the taste of raw flour. So if you go in your pantry and you just taste some flour, it's going to have a very specific taste, and you probably aren't going to like that very much. And then the other extreme we want to avoid is a burnt flour. So I'm going to turn this to like a medium heat here. And the key is to keep the flour moving, which is what the whisk is for. So when we put the flour in, we're going to keep it moving until it turns kind of like a golden brown color. And that's the name of the game. Okay, so the roux can get real dark before it burns. So you're not in any real danger of that as long as you keep it moving. So I got my flour here. In you go. And it's gonna fizz and do all sorts of cool stuff. And all we have to do is just keep it moving. The water and the butter is gonna all boil away. It'll just leave us with the fats in the butter. And we're kind of like frying up this flour mixture here. This is going to take several minutes, so I'll spare you the watching of the stirring of the roux, and I'll just bring you back when it's pretty done. You can see where we're at. Okay, we're back. I've been stirring constantly, so this is a nice deep brown color, and it's not burnt. You'd be able to see or smell if it was. And now I'm going to add in my milk. And one other ingredient I forgot to mention, so I'm just going to whisk and stir in the milk. Again, it's going to make a lot of steam. Just keep stirring. The other ingredient we need is mustard powder. And even if you don't like mustard, please put it in because it's an emulsifier. So this is going to help the sauce hang together and keep from breaking. So we're going to do a teaspoon of mustard powder. Without this, it's going to be much more difficult for the sauce not to break and just separate into like a oily mess. Okay, so now we're whisking judiciously here. And then we're just going to wait till the sauce starts to kind of bubble around the edges. What we're really making here is like a bechamel sauce, which is one of the French mother sauces. So we're making a cheese sauce. And the idea is it would be pretty delicious just to put the cooked macaroni into here, but ultimately this one we're gonna bake. Okay, so again we're looking for it to sort of really start to kind of foam and bubble around the edges. That's pretty good. Sorry. Okay, so you can see over here it's starting to go. So now, switch my whisk hand here. We're going to put the cheese in and as we're whisking. And the next direction here is one of those things that if you read it in cookbook, it's kind of confusing, but then you see it happen and it's perfectly descriptive. We're going to whisk until the sauce is shiny. Okay, so I'm just putting all the cheese in. Meanwhile, my water is boiling, so I'm gonna dump my pasta in real quick. Oh, shit. That's a bummer. Gross. Okay. Try to whisk and open the pasta and dump it in all at the same time. What could go wrong? The reason why you want to whisk with the sauce, and the risk I'm really running now, I gotta manage my heat, is that if you cook this too hard and you don't whisk enough, the sauce will be like gritty, which is as unpleasant to texture as it sounds in a macaroni and cheese. Okay, I got my macaroni in. All the macaroni is here in the water. And we're gonna undercook that. So the package says like 7 minutes, and I'm gonna shoot for like 5 and see where we're at. Meanwhile, we're just gonna keep whisking this thing over heat. And again, we want to go until the sauce is shiny. Once the sauce gets shiny, we can taste it for desired levels of salt and pepper. And that's just however you like it. Okay, I can see the sauce now is starting to get smooth and glossy. So we're getting close here. This recipe keeps well in the fridge either before you bake it or after you bake it. So first, if you want to take down a whole serving by yourself, I will judge you, but I will judge you favorably. But if that's not something that you're interested in doing, it's great in the fridge for several days, and you don't even need to bake the whole mess. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this, but the sauce is pretty shiny. So I'm going to lower the heat a little bit. because I don't want the sauce to break or get gritty on me. And I'm just waiting for my pasta to do its thing now. A little bit of starch from the water, from the pasta water, will also help the sauce hang together too. So this time, since the sauce is essentially done, I'm going to taste it for salt. This is a little bit hard to judge because you're going to put a pound of pasta in here. So if it tastes pretty salty but not offensively so, that's probably fine. But if it doesn't have a lot of zing to it, you might add some salt. It's pretty good. I might throw in a little bit of salt, just because. Give it another taste. Okay. That's way better. Alright, so the next step is to wait till the pasta is just under done. Almost done. Drain it and dump it in here and stir it. So come back when that happens. Okay, we're back. The sauce is shiny. Pasta's almost done. And I'm just gonna add it in, stir it into the sauce here. This is a lot easier if you aren't trying to film this simultaneously, but I'll just spoon it in here. I didn't drain this super well because I wanted some of the some of the water from the pasta to end up in the sauce. But if you really drained it super well, then you could just reserve like a tablespoon of pasta water or something. Okay. Get a little more aggressive with my pasta addition here. Okay, so this is going to begin to resemble mac and cheese. Alright. So at this point, you could just eat it. It's going to be cheesy and delicious. Or if you like the baked mac and cheese texture, I'll show you after the jump here. We'll just put it in a casserole dish that we butter up, top with the remaining cheese that we didn't put into the sauce here, and bake until the top is nice and crispy. But here's where we're at right now. Just so you can see the texture. Okay, if you want to bake it, we just need a casserole dish. This one's ceramic, it could be glass, whatever. Preheat the oven to 450, and then I'm just going to take some butter and rub it along the bottom here to get an even coating. Just a thin layer here. Okay, something like that. And then I'm gonna fill this baby with the macaroni. Just ladle it in. So we're gonna fill up the casserole dish with our macaroni and cheese, and then just top with the remainder of the grated cheese, which I've foolishly left in another room. So you'll have to bear with me when it is that time. Okay, so basically to the brim. Okay, that looks pretty good. And I'm just gonna run and grab the old, whoops. I'm gonna run and grab the cheese. So, just liberally top this with our grated cheese mixture. And at this point, you can stick it in the fridge. I've tried this several ways, refrigerating it before adding the cheese, after adding the cheese. And if you're like A-Bing the different versions of it, maybe there's a difference, but I'm pretty confident nobody in a blind test is going to say, well, you put the cheese on before you refrigerated this, didn't you? So again, you can make this on a day where you have time, and then finish this off 450 degrees, 20 minutes in the oven. And it's an easy weeknight meal. And next day's breakfast, next day's lunch, next day's dinner. Okay, 20 minutes later, fresh out of the oven. It's definitely sizzlingly hot. And this trivet is not the right size for the dish. However, inside it's nice and gooey. It's got this crust on top, so it's definitely a two-handed job. Okay, well, let's see if I can switch hands here. Okay. There we go. Sorry, that wasn't good video footage, but that's it. Delicious. When you're done, put it in the fridge, reheating it the next day. Of course, you could do microwave. I recommend longer time on lower power. You could also heat it up in a frying pan, which is what I usually do, oven again, or waffle iron if you're feeling adventurous.